Rolling.
Roll and record.
Alright.
Push and record.
This is Greg Carling, take one.
Out in the hall with you. You're being banished. This is our nice space, but there's a lot of noise that goes on around us, so we try to keep that down by telling people to be quiet as they come down the hall. So, all right. So now that we're started,
Yeah,
who are you? What do you do?
my name is Greg Carling. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Geological Sciences, and I mostly do groundwater, and that's for teaching and for research.
So how do you teach groundwater?
Groundwater is kind of my favorite class to teach. It's the class I do every year, and so this year is only my second time teaching it, as I started in BYU just in 2012. So when I started teaching groundwater last year, I was just kind of lecture, kind of not much interaction with the students. So this past summer, I had the opportunity to go to a workshop out in Washington, D.C. that was for geoscience educators, so we learned about teaching, and also the spring seminar here at BYU. We learned a lot about trying to make classes more interactive, and so I was kind of determined that I would try it out for this class, since it's my main class that I'm going to be teaching for the rest of my career. And so working with Ken Plummer at CTL, and using some of these ideas from these workshops over the summer, I was kind of determined to make this class a little more interactive. And so from last year to this year, I've been doing quite a bit less lecture, which is nice, which is good for me. I mean, I don't have to sit up there talking in front of the students for 3 hours every week. But I've got the students a lot more focused on working on projects and more hands-on kinds of things.
Did you want to sit down somewhere else, or are you comfortable where you are?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
So, do you call that blended learning? What do you call that? Is there a particular name that you call your style, or is it just interactive learning?
Well, I think if you talk to the people at CTL, they might call this blended learning. I guess I think of it just as interactive learning. That's the easier way for me to think of it. But yeah, I think the technical term might be blended classroom, where you've got some lecture, which is necessary, but also a lot of hands-on projects for the students.
So, what kind of things do you do then in the class that is not lecture?
So in my class this semester, I have tried to fit in several small kind of lab projects, and that is taken the place of several lectures that I had done previous time I taught the course. And so right now we've done 4 small lab projects throughout the semester, and each of those took anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks of class time to complete. And then we're building up towards a bigger final project that I'm hoping will encompass everything else we've done up to this point in the class. So when the students come back from Thanksgiving break, they have the month of December, well, at least until the end of finals week, to start this project and hopefully review everything they've learned.
So with these projects, do they just not come to class? Do they go to a lab? Do they come to a class and work with, is a partner? Kind of describe a little bit what these projects are.
Yeah, so the projects, I allow them to work in groups, so they can work in small groups. Some of them might just be working with one other person, and others might be working with a group of 4 or 5. But I try to get the students to come to class to work on these projects so they can interact with their classmates, but also interact with me and get help where they need it. And so, the students come to class. The first day, I'll introduce the project to them, or the lab assignment, whatever it is, and they'll get started on it. And then the next time when they come back to class, they'll just keep working on it with, hopefully not too much input from me, other than I can go around and kind of check on their progress. And so it's worked out pretty well. I mean, I'd say comparing this year with more of this interactive approach to last year, more of a lecture approach, I feel like it's been a lot better for me. I don't have to stand in front of the class for 3 hours a week. But also I think it's better for the students because they don't get that glazed over look in their eyes when they're working on a project as they would if they were listening to me talk.
So describe a project. What do they do? Just pick one of the projects. What is it they're required to do, and how do they accomplish that?
Yeah, so we've had about 4 different projects we worked on this semester, and one that I thought that was the most fun. Since this is a groundwater class, it's hard for them to get hands-on experience in measuring groundwater levels, so depth to water below the ground surface. And since we don't have a whole bunch of wells on campus, we built a fake aquifer. And so this fake aquifer was a bunch of 5-gallon PVC buckets we put outside in front of the Eyring Science Center on the grass. And these buckets had pipes sticking out of them, and we put different amount of water in each of the pipes, and they'd go through and measure the depth to water in each of the pipes, and then have to correlate that back to create a water table map for our fake aquifer. And so we spent 1 day outside with the students measuring water levels in each. There were 30 different wells that we constructed. And then the following class period, it's a Tuesday-Thursday class. So on Tuesday they measured water levels. The next Thursday they came back. They continued with working on their water table maps and other parts of the assignment. And they also had to characterize the aquifers based on the lithology or the types of sediment and bedrock that are in our fake aquifer. And so so I was helping them figure that. How do you scale the maps? How do you draw in water levels? How do you do all of this? And then the next week we continued on the project. So there's kind of a lot of steps to it. And ultimately, what I had them do was write up a report that answered a few questions about the aquifer, and also included 3 or 4 different maps and cross sections that I had them complete. So this whole project took 2 weeks of class time, 4 hour-and-a-half sessions of class, and by the end of it, I think they gained a lot more. They learned a lot more about how do you measure water levels, what do water levels mean, what is a water table, than they would have if I was talking about it for 2 weeks of class.
So why is that? Why isn't it just something you can tell them? Why is it important, do you feel, for them to get their hands in and do it?
Yeah, so I feel it's important for the students to get their hands in and working on things, especially for this groundwater class, where a lot of the subject material might be quite a bit different than what they've learned up to this point in geology. So they just don't have that experience of working with groundwater data. And so if they actually go out and collect this data, even though it's kind of a fabricated data set, they're collecting real data and using that data, and I think it just helps make things click a little bit better than just hearing about doing this.
So did you have any students